Today's topic is one kind of dear to my heart, called help with self-doubt. And today I'm going to take an approach different than I think counselors would take. I think if you have a counselor that can help you, that's fine. But over 30 some years of one-on-one mentoring that people get up at Guidance for Better Life, and I can't do one-on-one mentoring in a short talk. So I'm going to take what I've learned in about 30 years and try to show there's one root that I believe I've seen in every single case of self-doubt, because self-doubt really is fear. It's closely related to fear of not being good enough, fear of failure, fear of not meeting people's expectations, fear of not being worthy of love, not able to accomplish goals. There's the root, and that's what I'm going to focus on today, because I can't do one-on-one mentoring like we do up at the retreat center. And whether you get counseling or you come to the retreat center or do something on your own, I hope if I can really stress the root of every self-doubt situation I've seen, and how to overcome the fear that I just mentioned, I think that might help you, and I hope it does help you. So thanks for coming today. Over the years, I would say more than half the people I've personally mentored and the other people up at the school have mentored probably have some level of self-doubt. Some people hide it from themselves and from others. Other people, they're pretty open about it. Sometimes, but every case of self-doubt where you doubt you're good enough or worthy of love or capable or smart enough or whatever, or you don't meet other people's expectations, although you all meet God's expectations, and I'll get into that. But if we can get to the root of the fear and maybe go back and find out where this self-doubt was planted or how you picked it up along the way in this life or former lives, sometimes those two things can help a lot. At the retreat center, with God's help, we've always had success, although it may take time and some effort, but over time, self-doubt and not feeling good about yourself can be reduced and even eliminated. It's not easy, and I don't expect to do it in a short talk, but I want to give you the fundamentals that I really hope and pray will help you whichever way you go with this. Every case of self-doubt that I'm aware of in the last 30 years limits the quality of life. If you lack confidence for some reason, I'll talk about how you might pick this up. Because if you get to the root of some of this, it's fear. But if you know how you picked it up from an experience as a kid or as an adult, or somebody said something, sometimes you go, oh, that's why I feel that way. And just knowing how you picked it up sometimes will help. So I'll get to that in a minute. But every single case limits the quality of life. If, for example, if you feel unworthy of love, it affects all your relationships. And my main job is to help you accept God's love. You tend to push God's love away. You want it, but you don't feel worthy. So that's a block. Maybe in a marriage or friends, other relationships, you tend to push love away. If you don't have confidence in yourself for some reason, and you have a goal in life, you tend to have a goal, but then you decide, well, I'm not confident to finish the goal, so why bother? I don't want to fail, so I don't try. So you tend to limit your choices in life. So self-doubt, to me, greatly reduces the quality of your life, the potential you could have to create a life that works for you, a type of life that you would like. Now, some people, like I said, hide it really well from themselves and others, but I think the majority of people have some level of self-doubt. That's why this is such a dear topic. And again, since I can't do one-on-one mentoring in today's talk, I want to try to get to the root that I don't know if some counselors and others might help you with. So I want to do something a little unique and different that I believe will help you and give you some tools by the time we're done, that if you're doing this on your own without one-on-one help, I think hopefully you have some progress there and have a more abundant life. And this whole book I have, if you can see that, Spiritual Keys for a More Abundant Life. I'm going to use some of these keys and talk around some of these keys, not all of them. But the point is to have a more abundant life, not just when you pass on, but to have more confidence, more joy, to be willing to take a chance to try something new and feel okay about it, to feel good about yourself, even if somebody else says something negative about you, or they don't approve. Everybody has an opinion, and there's another thing everybody has, but not appropriate for today's talk. And there's no way you can live your life and get approval, nor do you want, from everybody. So ultimately, you need to approve of yourself and feel good about yourself, which is doable. And I also want to show you how God sees you. And once you know how God sees you, once you really accept that, you care a little bit less about how people see you. And the people that see you well, those are the people you should be drawn to. The people that don't, maybe you don't spend as much time with them. Of course, that's your choice. All right. I want to talk about how you might pick up some of this. We've had a lot of experience of this up at Guidance for Better Life. It's really hard to feel good about yourself and accept God's love and build a relationship with God and his prophet when you have self-doubt, especially if you feel unworthy of love, or you don't have the confidence, or you don't feel you measure up, or you're not good enough. There's such a wide variety of self-doubt that's why the reason I'm choosing to focus on what I believe I've seen over the years, the core. I'll give you an example of something, and this is almost embarrassed to share because it's so trivial compared to some of the deep-seated lack of confidence I see in people sometimes. So I apologize for how trivial it is. But I was in, I think, sixth or seventh grade, I don't recall. And I remember laughing and smiling. I don't remember the other kid in the playground. And I just remember another child said I had a funny smile. That simple comment. Maybe he thought it was a good smile, that it was funny. But I took that I had a smile that wasn't attractive. And for about the next year, and this is trivial compared to a lot of the deeper issues, and I think I'm over it now, smiling. But for the next year, I tried not to smile when I'd want to laugh. And I'm basically a happy person. I would try to suppress my smile, or I would do this. I would cover my mouth. I felt uncomfortable with my smile. And again, this was trivial compared to much more serious, like not feeling worthy of love or not confident in making choices in life or accomplishing goals. That's trivial, but because the kid said that, for some reason it stuck. Now, other kids could say something, maybe negative or hurtful, and it wouldn't stick. And if you go back, if you have time to contemplate, and I'll give you a contemplation later, if you go back and try to find out if it's this life, it could be a former life. And at the retreat center, the divine can take you back to past lives. And maybe the root of your self-doubt is from a former life, but that's beyond today's topic. But a lot of the self-doubt I've seen over the years is from how you're raised, or a simple comment. The kid said my smile was funny. And I got over that in about a year. But I've actually seen kids and other adults that put their hand up when they smile, and it reminds me of how I felt when I was young. So I didn't smile when I felt like smiling, and that took away a little bit of joy in my life. Again, very minor. Let's say a friend, a schoolmate, or even a parent say something hurtful. Maybe it's not about you. Maybe they're having a rough day and they say something, they're out of balance, or they feel lack of confidence, or they feel messed up, having a rough day, and they say something hurtful. And like the kid that told me I had a funny smile, maybe that stuck. If you do a contemplation, I'll share later, and go back, the Holy Spirit might show you how you picked up something like this. And sometimes you go, that's why I feel that way? Really? That's it? And you go, wow. And sometimes That's all you need to start getting over this lack of self-doubt. Um, maybe you share a goal with somebody, a childhood friend, or maybe your parents especially. I think most of the self-doubt I've seen in the last uh, number of years up at the retreat center is the relationship with your parents. If you have a goal in life as a kid, and you're really excited about something, and you say you want to attempt this, or you want to save this, or you want to accomplish this, or whatever it is, and if your parents discourage you, that can plant a seed of self-doubt. Well, if my parents don't have confidence in me, and you trust your parents generally when you're young, then that can plant, that's maybe where you picked up self-doubt. They could also smile and encourage you, but not overtly, but deep down, you can pick up. Kids pick up on stuff. People pick up on what people feel. Maybe deep down, they didn't think you were up to it. And that can plant a seed of lack of confidence. And this, in the last couple months this winter at some of our private retreats, I've actually noticed this in two cases. I think this extreme self-doubt in these two ladies, um, interesting enough, the two ladies just actually talked about, uh, their parents lack confidence. One parent had the husband, the father, when this child was 10, on Valentine's Day, when the marriage seemed fine, give divorce papers. And that mother of one of my students I'm looking at now lost her confidence. She thought everything was fine, and all of a sudden she found out it wasn't. So if this is how she felt, if she's that stupid not to know her marriage was in trouble, then she probably doesn't know how to raise her daughter. And it completely blew that lady's confidence, this mother. And I understand at her older age, she still lacks confidence. I believe my student, who I love, and her torment with self-doubt was picked up because she basically imprinted her mother's lack of confidence. And her mother sort of backed away from her, probably not wanting to hurt the child because the mom figured she probably didn't know how to take care of the child. And that was not only just saying something about your smile, but that was a traumatic experience for a 10-year-old. And I think once that person, I'm looking at her now on screen, hello, once that person, I think when you really have compassion for your mom and realize she completely lost confidence, I think that may be the root of where you lack some of your confidence. And it can be just a discomfort. Maybe you're not confident to do things, you don't feel loved, or it can actually be tormenting. You can literally be tormented every day, feeling extremely poor about yourself. And I'm going to get to how God sees you in a minute. And if you can truly accept how God sees you, that'll change a whole lot. And that's what we really do at the retreat center. Once you know how God looks at you and he loves you just the way you are, a lot of these things we pick up down here from other people and life experiences tend to just kind of like a house of cards fall in. But that's one example. So I wanted to talk about how you can pick up some of these things. Maybe somebody's just having a bad day. They say something mean, but like the kid that told me I had a funny smile, maybe for some reason, certain people say things and they stick with you. And then you go through life, you kind of forget why you hide your smile, for example. You forget the root of it. And if you go back and you can find the root, sometimes, not always, every case is different. That's why I'm trying to get to the core today. Every single case at the retreat center is mentored individually, and they have a lot of help up there. Okay. But every case of self-doubt, I believe, limits the joy and the quality of life in some way. Okay. And the Heavenly Father does not want you to look poorly on yourself. He made each of you unique. He broke the mold when he made you. He made you perfect. You have every ability to accomplish what your goal is in life. You may not know your goal. For example, Let's say you realize you're not athletic enough to be a professional football player. You don't have what it takes. Well, maybe that's not what your goal is, but maybe you're a writer or maybe some other talent. I promise you, God gave you the skill set, if you will accept them, to accomplish your goals in life. I don't think most of you on the screen have a goal in this life to be a professional football player or maybe a rock star. Maybe that'll do. Maybe I'll try that after being a prophet. Maybe that's one of my deep fantasies since I had a really lousy band in high school. I think we called it the crappy band because that's how we played. Anyway, you all have been given, I promise this, God gives you everything you need to accomplish the goal in life. So let you say you don't have a skill set or an attribute of somebody that has a different goal. Well, you don't need that attribute because that would be just a waste. You have the qualities and the capacity to accomplish what God wants you to accomplish in this life. You may not know what that is yet. Most of my students do know. My disciples definitely know. And we've been given what we need to accomplish what we're here for. We don't have skills and capabilities that other people have, nor do we need them, and it would have been a waste. But we have, and we recognize we have what we need for what we're here for. And that can help with self-doubt. If you start focusing on the positive capabilities, the gifts you have been given, and start aligning those with where does your heart want to take you? What kind of life would you really like? What kind of career? What kind of relationships? You might find a lot of the self-doubt, you're doubting capabilities maybe you don't have, but you don't need because they're not part of this life's journey. That might also help reduce some of the frustration. So I want to sum up a bit. Self-doubt is really closely related to fear. Fear you're not good enough, fear you're not worthy of love, fear you can't accomplish certain goals in life, fear you're not likable, lovable, all this stuff. So the main part of my talk is how to reduce fear. And with God's help, that can be done. And if you have prophets' help, that's it. That's even extra help. But I want to give you enough that you can get started on your own. And I'll give some Bible quotes about fear. God didn't give you a spirit of fear, but a spirit of love. Okay. And God doesn't use fear to encourage you. He uses love to encourage you, like my talk on receiving God's grace. Okay. Which will be coming out, I hope, in a few weeks. Let me look at my notes. This may be difficult for some, but some self-doubt when you think about yourself a certain way, sometimes there's a deep root and it's got you strong by the throat. And sometimes over the years, it becomes a habit. And you have some control over what you think about. And what I want to talk about is your thoughts have power. And I don't know if a lot of folks actually think about that. God gave you the ability to imagine. And a lot of people, when they use imagination, they think imagination equals fantasy. Fantasy is fantasy, but the God-given gift you were given as soul to imagine is how you create and how you manifest your future. And that's a God-given gift, the ability to imagine. And if you keep imagining that you lack or you're not worthy, that's a very strong negative emotion. And negative emotions, frankly, have more power over your life than positive emotions. So one of the spiritual keys I have is discernment, making good decisions. You can also help yourself a bit, although it's not necessarily easy. It depends how much determination you have. When you start thinking poorly of yourself, and I know some of my students do this, actually stop, take a moment, and make a conscious choice. Do I want to keep thinking negative thoughts that have power to limit you, to slow you down, to weaken your confidence, to make you feel bad about yourself, to take away joy? They control you. We want to be free from those negative thoughts, which is possible. So you can also use something as simple as discernment. And it's not always easy, but it's worth the effort. When you start having, oh, I can't do that. Or I tell my students how much God loves them and eventually take them and God will tell them himself. They go, well, I know God loves everybody, but not me. Or because I did this, or because I think this way. You have some control over your thoughts. The key in the Spiritual Keys book, Attitudes and Thoughts, is a cornerstone of this. If you can have some discernment, and it might take some self-control, don't go there. Think positive thoughts. Focus on some of the things you've accomplished. Focus on some good qualities about yourself. There must be people that think highly of you, that love you, that treasure your relationship. Think about what they think about you. And then when you learn about how God sees you, for my disciples, go back and remember an experience where I took you and showed you your true eternal self as soul, this beautiful ball of light that God created with his love. And if some of the root of the self-doubt is more habit pattern, where you're just used to thinking a certain way, you can help yourself. This is a little bit of self-help by having some determination not to go there. You may not be successful always, but if you could cut down the negative thoughts in half, that would be worth the effort. Okay. So using discernment, and as soon as you have the negative thoughts, and I hope at the end of this talk, some of my disciples will share how they've overcome some of this and which techniques I'm sharing today might help. First, the root. If you know the root, which we get to with God's help, the Holy Spirit will take us back and show the root in most cases. Often, once you know the root of when you picked up a self-doubt, often that takes it from here. It's still there, but it's not a stranglehold. And then it becomes a habit pattern. Through some discernment, take control of your thoughts. And that gives you freedom in general. When you can start controlling your thoughts and not having your mind just run, that gives you a certain amount of freedom in other areas of your life also. Okay. Before you do something you're going to regret, take a moment, think, make a conscious choice. That's controlling your thoughts. And if you have a higher spiritual growth quotient, higher consciousness, that's one of the goals, to make conscious choices, not just about other people, but about yourself. I've got some students that are so compassionate to other people. A complete stranger, they would do almost anything for. Yet when they think negative thoughts about themselves, what are they doing? They're showing zero compassion for themselves. And so part of discernment of having some determination, just don't keep beating yourself up. It's like picking up a stick and hitting yourself every day. Put the stick down. And then to help replace the negative thoughts, like I said, think of things that you're actually good at. Or think of something you tried that was scary and you succeeded at, even a small accomplishment. Or something you were very consistent at, some goal. And say, well, that was scary, but I accomplished it, so I must have some capability. So this other goal I'd like, or this new job or relationship, or something you want to try, I think I can do that too. It might be a lot of work, but if I work at it, I think I can get there. Okay. So that's something else. Your thoughts. Your thoughts have power. And I'll give you a couple examples of that if I can find them here. And negative thoughts are much stronger in a negative way than your positive thoughts. For example, let's say you want to walk across a creek and there's a narrow board or log. If you focus on you're going to cross the creek and get to the other side successfully, that's a positive thought. But if you have a a strong sense of failing and slipping off the board and falling in this little shallow creek, the one that has the most control over your actions will be the negative thought, the fear of falling. Remember, fear is part of self-doubt. Fear of not being good enough, not being loved, not not confident. These are all, the root is basically fears. So we'll get to that. So negative thoughts are more powerful than your positive thoughts. Okay. So try to have discernment and some self-control. And when you start having negative thoughts, just say, I'm not going there. And if you can, try to replace them with some of your successes, some of the qualities you do see. What I've noticed over the years, 30 some years, I think every single person, and many are not, they come to the retreat and leave, and then some are still here. But every person I've met or still know, I would say the majority, like I started out, have some type of self-doubt. All different levels, all different types, some traumatic, some subtle, like the smile thing. And I think every single person was likable, lovable, capable, smart, attractive in some way. It's almost like that eating disorder where somebody thinks they're extremely fat, yet everybody around them that knows and loves them think they're actually too thin. A lot of self-doubt is like that. It's not true. So if you stop thinking the negative thoughts and use some discernment and some self-control, you want to start seeing more accurately and more truthfully. I'm looking at people on the screen now that still struggling with self-doubt, and they're exceedingly capable. They're exceedingly likable. I believe the two I'm looking at right now that we just went through a retreat with, that's why this topic's so dear right now, could both accomplish anything in life they want to accomplish. God loves them dearly. Everybody at the retreat center likes them and admires them. They contribute, yet they don't see it. So what I've noticed over the years, most self-doubt is actually an untrue version of yourself. Like somebody thinks they're overweight, but they're actually very skinny. But in their eyes, they just see too big, and then they change their eating habits. So you want to start focusing not on the negative, untrue, but start reminding yourself of some of the true things. And of course, the retreat center, we go through and you have a lot of help with that. So you don't want to spend too much time and energy focusing on the negative. Try to use self-control and some discernment to some degree and focus on the positive. When you have a negative thought about yourself, try to find something that you think is a positive. And I guarantee most of you have much more positive than negative, even if you don't see it. And we'll get to that later. A can-do attitude also, which my parents inspired me with. Two things I picked up from my parents that I've noticed over the years. I realize now how blessed I was. And I'm not taking credit for this, so I'm not bragging. I just realized in the last year how blessed I was. One, no matter what I did as a kid, I absolutely was secure that they loved me. And I've noticed a lot of people I've mentored over the years do not have that security. Maybe their parents loved them, but they just didn't know how to demonstrate it. Somehow the communication didn't work. Maybe the parents were not secure in their parents' love, so they didn't know how to pass it on to the children. I feel so blessed. I think that's a root of a lot of self-doubt. That's one. I'll give you two of them. I've just noticed this recently from a few retreats. One, no matter, I might be being spanked and grounded, but I knew I was loved to the core. And they reminded me often. And I think a lot of people do not have that. And that may be the root of your self-doubt. You know, if the parents can't love you, then there must be something wrong with you. No, it may be the parents just didn't know how to show it, or they had their own problems, or your grandparents didn't show them the love. You have a chance to break that chain reaction in your life and your kid's life. Okay. And the second thing is lack of confidence. A lot of parents grew up, they're not confident. Maybe the grandparents weren't confident and they imprinted and they just learned not to be confident. And it's not that they say something, it's the way they respond to stress and strain and challenges and opportunities. As a child, you pick up, oh, you got to be careful and worry about stuff because probably not going to work out. No, you don't want to do that because that's probably not going to work out. So it's kind of like, I think the word's imprint. I'm not sure what it is, but you pick up how your parents respond through lack of confidence. I think that's the two roots that I've seen the most recently. Either for some reason, the parent, through their own trauma, their own way they were raised, is not secure in love and not capable, even if they love you, passing that on. So then if parents don't love you, there's something wrong with you is what you pick up. Not true, but it's understandable you pick that up. And the other, you're not confident in yourself or accomplishing goals because you saw your parents. They didn't say they weren't confident, but that's how they responded. And you're all smart and kids are smart. And you see how your parents respond. They worry about things more than most. They don't try new things. They tend to kind of close down. Those two, I think, may be the root of a lot of self-doubt. But that doesn't mean you couldn't have confidence or you're not loved. All right. So can-do attitude. My parents gave me the can-do attitude. They told me, and again, I'm passing this on because I feel so blessed. They told me so many times in my life, besides they loved me, even when I was not being a good kid at the time, that I could do anything I accomplished, wanted to do in life, be anything I wanted to be. And they always put a but, the comma, a big but. If you work, if you study, if you make the effort, if you do all the things you have to do. So I've tried a lot of new things in life, and then I build on that success. If one thing works, well, I figure maybe I can figure out the next one. I would say most of the people I meet do not have that, and they didn't pick it up as a child. I believe most parents do not pass on to children. And I'm saying this because if this resonates, just going back and going, that's why I feel that way. And I think two people I'm looking at on screen that we just did a winter retreat in Linamite home that have been talking recently about, and they're extremely talented people. I think they could do pretty much anything they want in life, yet they don't see it in themselves. I believe both parents lack confidence. The one lady, the husband and wife, I don't think the mom and dad, I met them. I don't believe they were very confident people. The dad barely spoke. And the trauma of the divorce when this girl was 10, the mom lost complete confidence. And I think they imprinted and they learned to act that way. So if you go back and do a contemplation, I'll give you in a little bit here. And if that's the root of it, you might go from this where it's strangling you to where at least the grip is taken away. And I'm trying to give you some ideas because I not one-time mentoring a lot of you that are not up at the retreat center. Up there, we spend a lot of time and you got a lot of help, plus the Holy Spirit coming in to help. So I'm trying to give you a way to maybe find the root of it. A can-do attitude, even if you have to stretch to think you can do something or accomplish something, it's better to have a can-do attitude than I cannot. That I cannot do that is a really dangerous attitude. So even if you have to stretch a bit and give yourself a little pep talk and maybe not fully believe it, a can-do attitude, which I've shared at my retreats, is a much better way to go than I cannot attitude. I cannot do something is a negative. And remember, negative thoughts are much stronger controlling our actions than positive thoughts. So a weak positive thought, I can do, but you're not real can do attitude. But a weak can do attitude will do much more for you than I cannot attitude. I hope that makes some sense. Another thing that I don't know if I don't think unless you get into spiritual, how God works and the Holy Spirit works, what you expect in life has a profound impact on you. more than willpower and everything. And this is a spiritual thing. I'm not going to go deeper in. You can consider this. If you expect to fail at something, that'll have more impact than all your willpower to try to accomplish a goal. Again, it's a negative thought, which is very strong and have more impact than the positive thought. So if you expect somebody won't like you, you expect to fail at a certain task, you expect not to be likable or lovable, you expect not to measure up, it's such a wide net here. That will have a very strong negative impact on you. If you expect to fail, but you work really hard at something, but deep down you expect to fail, it gets to a level of spiritual teachings I just can't cover, but I hope you consider. Expecting to fail will override almost all your willpower and effort. You'll self-destruct. That goes back to discernment. And that's the attitudes and thoughts, one of my spiritual keys, has a huge impact on your life. And if you can start realizing when you look at yourself in the mirror and think bad thoughts, that's not a trivial moment. It's hurting you. It's limiting you. It's weakening you. It's pulling you down. You cannot indulge in these negative thoughts without a consequence. They cause damage. You can't just get in a pity party and talk bad about yourself, figure, well, it felt good, but it didn't do any harm. It does harm. It plants seeds to destroy down the road. It plants seeds for doubt. It makes it doubt deeper, less lovable, less. It's not an idle thing where you just want to vent saying how lousy you are. It's poison. You're drinking poison that will absolutely impact your life. So please start thinking about controlling your thoughts, at least a little bit. Okay? If you have a thought, which is an expectation that this isn't going to work out, this job won't work, I can't accomplish that goal that I'd really love to do, I think I'll just stay on the couch and not even try. Now I'm afraid of failure. I don't want to look bad. That expectation will usually trump even your best effort. It's toxic. So what you think, that's really the thing I'm trying to stress. If you can get to the root, that can help sometimes take the hand off your throat. If you can stop poisoning yourself with negative thoughts and low expectations, that will give you some breathing room. Okay, we're not getting to the punchline, but this will help. All right, let's get to what I think that's changed the lives of most of my disciples. Not everybody's going to like any of you. I can guarantee, I'm looking at you all. I love you all very much, but a lot of people don't like you. A lot of people don't like me. Look at this country. Maybe half the country like a president and half hate him. We're not trying to be liked by everybody. If you want to do that, you're going to drive yourself insane. Okay? So let's look at, how does God see us? If God approves of us and he gave us everything we need to accomplish our goals in life, maybe not being a football player or rock star, but what you're here to do, and I promise you he gave you those capabilities, then less worried about what other people think. For example, I have a little note here from somebody. This person has a wonderful life, but sometimes fall into self-doubt. A lot of people can relate to this, but sometimes fall into self-doubt regarding the actions from other people towards me. There's a song I used to like. I don't know how many of you younger folks know it. I went to a garden party by Rick Nelson. Anybody remember that song? I'm not going to sing it, but my crappy high school band might have been able to play it. I don't know, probably not in tune. But he says you can't please everyone, so you got to please yourself. In a positive way, what you think about yourself might be more important in the long run than trying to please everybody out there. Maybe your close friends, that's one thing, people close to you. The other thing is to start being concerned more with what God thinks about you. And I absolutely promise you, and my disciples, if we have time to share, I hope you share. When you know what God thinks of you and how much he treasures you and loves you, and that he gave you everything you need to accomplish your purpose in this lifetime. We have many lifetimes. That can far outweigh what other people think about you. That comment I just read, a lot of people relate to that. And I think the first time I recognized a high level of spiritual freedom in my life, 40 some years ago, as I started growing towards this prophet job, was when I stopped worrying so much about what other people thought about me. The sense of, and some like me, some don't, but that's true for all of us. I treasure the people that I'm close to, and if people don't like me, that maybe don't know me, whatever. Um, when I stopped being overly concerned with what other people thought or their approval, there's a book Joyce Myers put out that I think some of you read. Joyce Myers, a Christian preacher, pretty neat lady. Approval Addiction, I think's the name of it. How many read that book years ago? Did that help? If that, there's different degrees of that, like everything, shades of gray. But I think all my disciples, and maybe some of you that aren't now, once, and I hope to explain today, when you realize how God sees you and how much he loves you and how he loves your uniqueness, you start being comfortable in your own skin. You stop trying to please everybody, and instead you be your true self. And then people that are drawn to your true self, you might lose somebody if you've had a lot of masks and you fake who you are, and then you start being your real self, you'd be so much happier. When you're your true self and be the real you that God made you, you might lose people that like the false image, with all the masks and the fake stuff. But I promise you, people that now will be drawn to you that like the true self. It'll all balance out, and you'd be so much happier. So I want to get into something that can really help a lot on this self-doubt, this self-image challenge, is how does God see you?